What is love? Oh, baby, don't hurt me no more. Baby, don't hurt me no more. What is love?
Wow, so original! Hi there folks, my name is Noah Sokolsky and you're watching Pinpoint here on Deet-Doe Productions. Today's question, what the heck is love? Well, according to many artists, love is like the right dress on the wrong girl. Your love is my drug. I love you, you love me, I'd love for you to... You get the point. So why is society so infatuated with love? People seem to love love, but why is that? Is there something magical about it that transcends humanity and the laws of physics itself? Unlikely. It turns out love is actually a series of chemicals that go on in your brain, and they're meant to incentivize the passage of our genes. It's kind of like, well, animals act on instinct, so they're just kind of like, well, we gotta do this because we gotta do it. Humans, on the other hand, were probably like, well, my head tells me to do this sort of thing, but like, I don't really care too much because, you know, we were smarter and we questioned things. However, if no one wanted to have sex, then humans probably wouldn't be around today. Don't worry, natural selection kicked in around here. There were probably two sets of humans around the time that love was starting to make its way into the brain. There was one set of humans that didn't have the love gene in their brain, and they were like, well, I don't really care about sex, so I'm not gonna do it. And then there was a group of humans that were infatuated with love, so they decided to have sex, make babies, and spread their love genes to all the rest of us humans, so now all of us seem to be really interested in love. Yeah, so love is just an evolutionary tool that's basically a bunch of chemicals in our heads that tell us that having sex is kind of fun.
Well, alright, Noah, I know what chemicals are. We can just throw some of those chemicals in a vial and make ourselves a juicy love potion. Why don't we throw some dopamine in there? We can throw in some vasopressin and some oxytocin. We can throw that all together and give ourselves a love potion, and someone may love me.
Sadly, it's not as simple as just throwing chemicals together and making a love potion. In fact, it's very, very complicated in the ways that people fall in love. Men and women actually fall in love quite differently. When a woman starts dating, her oxytocin levels start increasing. To put this in context, oxytocin is emitted in a female brain and in a male brain sometimes when a newborn baby is just born. It helps bond people together. And that's what increases when a woman is dating. This chemical allows that woman to be more compatible with the person they're dating simply because they're bonding better. Men, on the other hand, have a chemical called vasopressin, which is basically like the male counterpart of oxytocin. As vasopressin and oxytocin levels increase, it may be something that a couple does to get in a bedroom and do the deed. It's actually quite interesting how things happen. After having sex, it's reported that female oxytocin levels increase dramatically, which means that the person is more likely to fall in love after having sex. On the contrary, male vasopressin levels decrease wildly right after sex. So essentially, men fall out of love as women fall into love after sex. This is a major problem. Luckily, Mother Nature is a pretty cool gal. She invented different ways to combat this vasopressin decrease. One way is time, in fact. After time and being in a committed relationship, male vasopressin receptors will start to form in the male's head. Essentially, the longer that the male feels attracted to a woman, the more vasopressin transmitters he'll have in his brain. In order to keep these circuits flowing, a man needs vasopressin receptors. So the longer that the male is in the relationship before having sex, the more solid the love is and will keep him sticking around after sex. Okay, this process seems kind of useless. What the heck is the point of having a male lose interest in a woman after sex? Well, Mother Nature probably has a reason for this in the same way that love has a reason for being. Let's think of it this way. Oh, look at that, you just had sex, but whoops, the male loses interest, and whoops, the female's left unattended with her baby, and whoops, there comes a pack of wild wolves, and whoops, the baby dies, uh-oh. Essentially, humans get really, really happy when they're in love, and in order to stay in love, they need to be committed to each other. And this has an evolutionary advantage. When the man is around to stay around, he can fight off predators and keep his family safe. Okay, let's recap. Nature makes life and everything is good. You got this thing, and you got this thing, and oh crap, they're mutating and you start getting evolution. Animals are adapting to form the craziest things you've ever seen, like what the heck is this thing over here? What's this guy? Who even knows? Not so suddenly humans come about and they're like, well, we don't want to have sex, we want to make fire and stuff, and nature's like, dude, you gotta have sex, it's the only way to pass on your genes, and the humans are like, why? And then suddenly, human population starts dwindling, and nature's like, oh crap, we gotta fix this. So they make love, and everyone is happy and they love love. It's the greatest thing ever. All of a sudden everyone's happy and falling in love. But soon people are leaving their partners because once they fall in love and have sex, males become not attached. And suddenly, all the women and children are dying. And nature's like, dude, come on, you gotta go back to your wife and children. And the men are like, why? And then nature's like, well, you gotta be attached to your woman. You gotta feel. And the men are like, well, we don't want to do that because we want to go shag our women and then go fight this boar or something. And then nature's like, dude, come on, you gotta stick around because otherwise your baby's not gonna grow up and the humans are gonna die. Nature's like, alright, here's this brain thing. The only way you can fall in love now is if you're attached. And everyone's like, no, we love love. We want to write about it in our books and music and poetry. And nature's like, well, too bad, you gotta be attached now. And suddenly, monogamy. Pretty much nature created marriage. This is like the craziest way to make marriage ever. But essentially, these brain chemicals made way for monogamy, which eventually made way for marriage. In society, it's the thing to want to grow up and get married to a strong, handsome man or some really gorgeous girl, but what the heck is the point? I mean, 1 out of every 2 marriages fail in the United States alone. Yeah, but screw the statistics, we're in love! Love finds a way, right? Well, actually, in terms of marriage, love was never even a part of it. In fact, it was mainly just used as a legal way to keep track of who owned what land. It originated back in 2000 BCE in Mesopotamia. Once they got married, in the government's eyes, they were a family and they could own any piece of land together as that family. Of course, this was back in ancient Mesopotamia, so as marriage grew, so did the culture of it.
Some men married multiple women, some women married multiple men, some people had marriage within the same sex, some people married 2 people, one of different sexes, some marriages were forced, some people even allowed ghost marriages, where one member of the marriage was dead and the other was alive.
Dude, people are getting married left and right. So where did the modern idea of marriage come from? Well, actually, we can take it back to an early peasant who was working a field. That peasant may believe that they have too much field to work and not enough workforce to do it. So what do? They join with another member of a different family and boom, they're married, and soon, workforce is doubled and you can work twice the amount of land that you could before. This idea of gaining power through marriage rose up to royal classes. Royal families would actually use marriage to form alliances with other nations that would strengthen bonds between those 2 people. But not only that, it also strengthened bonds between those 2 nations. Marriage was a pretty powerful thing. Love and the modern day family didn't make its way into marriage until recent times. In fact, this form of marriage actually came around in the last 100 to 200 years. It especially started to take shape in the 1950s with the nuclear family. Basically, it said that the father was the provider of the family. He went out to get money and provided food and shelter for his family. And the mother was some sort of cook who always stayed at home and was always happy and taking care of the children. And the children were dumb. They basically played baseball and drew pictures all day, and that was it. Now, this wasn't just a standard in society. In fact, the government used propaganda to try and promote the nuclear family.
Today we're going to see a story about one family and how they lived together. About Tony and his dog Fluffy. About his sister Nancy. About Mother, who takes good care of the whole family. And about Father, who works hard for his family.
They wanted to focus families inward because in the 1950s, crazy things were going on. You had the civil rights movement, where racial tensions were higher than ever, the Cold War, where there was threat of nuclear warfare all the time, and the peace movement, the movement against the Vietnam War. Essentially, the government wanted to take people away from the outside world and focus them inward on their nuclear family. So marriage was never really about what you wanted it to be about. It was only ever about power, money, and manipulation. Honestly, monogamy is kind of outdated. I mean, only 5% of all animals on this earth are monogamous, which basically means that everyone else has multiple partners. This makes sense. Animals have the sole purpose of spreading their genes and allowing their species to evolve. Humans may have love, but in reality, that's just an incentive to have sex. Monogamy makes sense in an early human being, but nowadays, humans are protected. Females don't need males in order to survive. In fact, we see so many empowered women today, it's incredible how far we've come. So the idea of marriage isn't only not necessary, but it's kind of outdated. All I'm saying is that we should take an intellectual look at love and marriage and try to rework it with the way society works. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should be polygamous and have multiple wives, but I'm not saying that monogamy is exactly the right way either. I'm just saying we should take a re-look at it. Thanks for watching Pinpoint. My name is Noah Sokolsky, and I'll see you next time here on Deet-Doe Productions.